order. Please rise and face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The school board will convene into closed session tonight to consider the employment, promotion, compensation, performance evaluation data of any public employee for which the governmental body does jurisdiction or exercises responsibility under Wisconsin statutes 19.85, Brand 1 and Brand C, to consider a high school head varsity girls basketball coach, a high school junior varsity 2 head volleyball coach, and the middle school cross-country head coach, 2 positions, so that means combined positions. Did we have anyone? We don't have any guests, so we don't have anybody who wants to speak. Is there anything anyone wishes to be removed from the consent agenda? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I would move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, and that includes $2,000 from the Landing Resort to the softball team and $400 donation from Jeff Isaacson of Harvard Real Estate Group to the Destination Imagination team, and Katie Thomas resigning as the middle school cross-country co-head coach. We will move to the administrator reports, and we don't have them here tonight, so that's good. We've got their reports online. You've got the reports online, so if you have questions, you can contact them or the superintendent. We also have the athletic director, didn't tell him to report online. Did you have anything to add?
So I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you to the board for serving at the staff barbecue on June, the last day of school. We had several staff members just saying thank you and truly appreciated that reach out and that opportunity to celebrate the year. I want to take a moment to say it has been a full year. It has been an incredible year with staff and students. They have accomplished so much, and we look forward to the future. I also want to publicly acknowledge Heidi Tech. She is taking the administrative assistant to the board and to the superintendent, along with the accounts payable position for the district. She started on June 10th. So a warm welcome to Heidi. Great addition to the team. And then one of the pieces that we are working on this past year has been our security inside of the system. And there is a Department of Justice grant that would help us increase our radio connectivity with our SRO and emergency response systems. There are some spots in the district that are inside of our building that are a little hard for the people to reach out. So working on that grant application due the end of June, and hopefully would ramp up our radio system inside of our district. So that's all I have. The rest of it will happen under buildings and grounds and finance.
I would just say, if you didn't find the voter voice email in your school email from WASB, pay attention to that. It's a way that you can just click and communicate with the legislators on the budget, on the educational side of things. You can just click and reply, or there is a pre-printed message. You can change it and personalize it if you want to, but it takes about 30 seconds is all it really takes, so try to look for that.
It's the WASB action alert that just came out, I think, today or yesterday.
Jeff, did you want to talk about the athletic committee meeting at all?
I guess I have a question. At the end of the year, I don't know what tool we use to call this, but you do anything like as a teacher's done at the end of the year. Do they ever have to put together a report for themselves on what went well, what didn't go well, and what will come next year?
That's inside of the evaluation process for educator effectiveness on a 3-year cycle. They have goals. They meet with the building principal, talk about how they accomplish their goals and what the next steps will be moving forward. But that's inside of the educator effectiveness evaluation.
I still got it. Thank you, sir.
Athletic committee, Jeff.
Pretty much discussed everything that was in the athletic director's report. I don't think there's anything else that wasn't discussed basically with the student and athletic handbook.
So for Jeff, I have a question for the some of it.
Well, let's wait till we get to
Okay,
athletic,
let's-
let's wait till we get to the athletic handbook changes for that.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
And anything on facilities?
So on the facilities piece, just a brief update, as you can see, we're working on the roof right now, that should be finished pending weather within the next week. We're also plumbing for the HVAC, the two HVAC systems that we are replacing. More than likely, they will not get placed until the fall, just because they're custom built, and we probably won't give them in time for the summer placement. So we'll look at placing them over a break to the best of our ability, not to have to disrupt our education system. Oh, I'm so sorry. And then we will be resealing the parking lot, and those are really the three big pieces that we have this year for buildings and grounds. Continuing to look at how do we create efficiencies within the system. We did have Johnson's Control in at the end of May, looking at our systems, and we do believe that we can make some tweaks that might help address that second floor issue on the new building where it gets hot and cold, depending upon the time of year. So we think we found some solutions. It seemed to work at the end of the year, so I'm optimistic that as we move forward, we'll be able to do that. So in conversation, also with what would be the opportunity for us to, right now we have two systems. We have Johnson Control and I can't remember, thank you. And so is it possible to get the entire building on one system? So that's a conversation that we're having to say, would that help create some efficiency? So we'll meet with the Buildings and Grounds Committee once we have additional information and continue to bring that to look at those problem solving for those solutions.
Then we have someone waiting online to present to us under new business item B, the OPEB report, which I think is post-retirement benefits.
Yep.
So could I have a motion to move item B under new business forward to the agenda at this time?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, so I will introduce John Lamarga from Foster & Foster. They do our actuarial study on our other post-employment benefits. You have the information in your board packet. And John, I don't know if you want to share your screen.
Yep, absolutely. I can go ahead and share my screen here. So I believe in the packet you should have the 3-page summary that we provided that kind of briefly summarizes the full valuation report itself. And then I think just looking at the count of the number of pages, you probably have also the most recent updates and updated exhibits that we did provide for this fiscal year end. So I'm mainly going to be speaking on this 3-page summary, kind of briefly going through that. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those as well. Like Tasha mentioned, I am John Lamarga from Foster & Foster Consulting. Previously, we were Key Benefit Concepts, if that sounds familiar to you. But we do provide the actuarial services to the district regarding the OPEB or other post-employment benefits. So this would pertain to any kind of benefit that's provided post-employment other than pension benefits. So just starting at the top there, talking a little bit about the background and certification of the report. It was prepared by Foster & Foster in accordance with the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, GASB, Statement 75 as it pertains to OPEB. And it was certified and reviewed by a chief actuary, Pete McLeod, who is a fellow of the Society of Actuaries. A few of the key definitions that are kind of important to understand when looking at the report and the results of it are as follows here. So starting off there with the total OPEB liability, that would be the portion of the actuarial present value of projected benefits attributed to past periods of service In other words, we refer to that as kind of the accrued benefit. So in essence, what is accrued by your employees through the measurement date of the report. So how much is earned of that liability until it's ultimately paid. The service cost then is what's being earned or allocated to the valuation year. So as an employee who's eligible for the benefit works an additional year for the district, they are earning a portion of that benefit that they're going to receive post-employment. That amount is that service cost. The fiduciary in that position would be the market value of assets held in an irrevocable trust. If you are funding the benefit, in this case, the district does not have a trust established to fund the OPEB benefits. It's not required to establish a trust or to fund them or pre-fund them. A lot of districts do just pay as you go, but that is something to consider if you're looking at that. The net OPEB liability is, of course, then the difference between the total OPEB liability and the fiduciary net position. In this case, it would be the same as the total OPEB liability since there are no assets. Lastly, the OPEB expense would represent the expected cost of the benefits attributed to the measurement period. It's basically an accounting item that's reported in the notes section of your financials. That's going to include things like that service cost, what's being earned or accrued on the benefits, interest, since we're looking at a present value figure here, as well as any kind of deferred inflows or outflows that are recognized during the period. Moving on to the next section, talks about a few of the key benefit factors. In essence, what are the benefits or the OPEB benefits that are provided to employees when they retire, and what is included ultimately in this OPEB report. So as we note there, the district does provide and make contributions towards medical premiums or a premium-only HRA to certain individuals. We kind of list those out there. So starting with that second bullet, support personnel and bus drivers who retired prior to 7/1/23. You can make contributions towards health and dental premiums at the same rate as actives for 3 years. Those who retired after 7/1/23, but before this fiscal year are provided with a premium-only HRA for a period of 3 years, and then those retiring after, as well as teachers, all teachers are provided with a cap kind of $14,500 into a premium HRA over that 3-year period. Additionally, on the next page there, we note that at the time of this valuation, there were some individually negotiated administrators who provided up to a maximum annual amount of $10,000 for health insurance premiums for a period of 7 years. And then we also indicate there that there's some certain cutoffs as far as continuation of coverage. So those retiring prior to 2034 are eligible to remain on the district's plan once they retire until Medicare eligibility, or as long as the carrier would allow. However, those retiring after, the limit is now being applied to COBRA. So in essence, anybody retiring after that date is only allowed that COBRA period, which is generally 18 months. The last section there talks about implicit rate subsidy. That might be a new kind of term or something you haven't heard before. In essence, what GASB requires is us to value the difference between a value of the benefit that's being provided and then what's actually paid for that. So in this case, that additional liability is that implicit rate subsidy from individuals remaining on the district's plan once they're retired. So if you think about your health insurance plan and you have a population of individuals and everyone's kind of being rated the same and collectively in charge the same premium, on average we'd expect those older individuals who are 55 plus or retired are going to incur higher claims than those that are, say, in their 20s and 30s on average. So if everyone's being charged the same rate, in essence there's some subsidization going on between your younger population and the older population based on what's being paid for that coverage. And GASB requires us to account for that as an additional liability. Now, it's not something that's actually being paid out or paid to those individuals. It's in essence baked into the premiums that are charged, but it is an additional liability that's required to be reported in the financials. Related to that, we did assume certain election percentages as far as those who would choose to elect to continue coverage, both on those who are provided an actual cash benefit, as well as those who maybe are not eligible for that, and we note that in the last bullet there. The next two sections touch a little bit on some additional benefits that are provided to employees at the time this valuation was performed. The first section there talks about some actively funded benefits. In this case, one that was provided to the district administrator. Actively funded benefits are something that are not included in these OPEB or these OPEB valuations, since it's something that's funded actively while individuals are working for the district. So in that case, that is not included in the report or anything related to that. And then lastly, the unused accumulated sick leave there in the bottom section. Teachers are provided with a conversion of their unused sick leave once they retire, up to a certain number of days converted at $100 per day. And according to GASB guidelines, that's something that's considered a compensated absence and accounted for separately under GASB Statement 101. So that's not included as far as the cash dollars themselves for the payout of those days. However, if individuals are utilizing those funds to continue coverage on the district's plan, there is that liability related to implicit rate subsidy that is being considered. The last section here just touches on the valuation results themselves. In this case, we're looking at the last 3 full valuation periods. So as of 6/30/2023, the liability, both total and net, since there's no assets, was about $956,000. Comparing that to the prior 2 years, or 2 valuation periods, I should say. 2 years ago was about $1.103 million, and 4 years ago was $1,034,000. The last line item there also shows kind of the total pay-as-you-go projection. So in our valuation reports, we project out payments over a 30-year period. So if we were to sum up all those payments for the 30 years from each of those valuations, those are the amounts that we would get and expect to see over the next 30 years. This most recent period being $2.96 million, 2 years prior 3.3 million, and 4 years prior about 3.01 million. If you look at the table update report exhibits themselves through 6/30/2024 that are provided, I believe, in those additional pages, you'll see that as of that date, liabilities are up slightly at about $1,009,000, but relatively similar range. So that's really the main points of the report itself. If there are any questions or anything else that I can talk more about, I'm happy to do so.
Questions, anyone?
Would we be better just at the time of retirement to give them a check and show them which tax-free things they can go into and we're done with any type of responsibility?
I don't know, John, if you could hear the question.
Yeah, just talking about why don't you just give an individual amount and
120 days.
I don't like the last part, but just
it'd be
for them
$12,000.
to.
If they do 120 days at $100 a day. So give them, allocate $12,000 to go into some fund that they're responsible, that they can select, and it's no longer on our books, or it's, because we're paying them today's dollars, tomorrow's dollars will be more expensive. Huh?
So, Randy, I don't know if you want to answer some of that. Otherwise, I can answer some of that. That is something that the district is working towards, essentially, by moving people to the HRAs, to the $14,500 per year HRA contribution.
It's a conversation that we need to have as we continue to look at financial risk and responsibility and what is the best for us to be able to move forward. And really, one of the pieces that I know has been worked on in the past is sunsetting our employees who retired and staying on our district health insurance policy. And part of the reason that you look to do that, as you know, as a district, our usage was over 130% 2 years ago when we went out to bid for our health insurance. Part of that reason is because you have your retirees on your district health insurance plan. So to your point, Jerry, there are some of those pieces that you work with in conversation to be able to look at maintaining the benefit for staff, but also reducing that liability and risk to the district. We didn't address those conversations at all this year, and I think just as we continue to move forward, if I was going to, look at what we receive from OPEB, we're in really pretty good shape for our district and for our size with the liability that we have moving forward. And it's not a liability. Sure, there's a dollar amount out there that we are, accountable for, but it's not astronomical. it's not something that we can't continue to build into and maintain in our budget. We unfortunately don't have a fund, so some districts pre-fund it, and then you just have a fund that you reduce down. We don't have that, we just take it out of general every year to make the payment. So I think it's an opportunity for us to look at as a district as we continue to look at how to maximize the resources, the limited resources that we have.
I mean, is there any pros or cons that we would get into an irrevocable trust for any of that stuff?
So if you do establish a Fund 73, which is related to OPEB, there are some additional categorical aid eligibility that you would be potentially eligible on from the amounts contributed to that. So there is some benefit as far as that goes. I know, other than that, just the earning interest on the assets that are being set aside can offset future payments, but mainly just that additional categorical aid for special education that's being applied to those contributions.
But again, I mean, with the plan we have right now, this would if you can stay on our health plan 15 years after you retire, our health plan is taking on its shoulders a much more expensive risk group than who they are insuring under, right? And I don't even think GM does that. It may change.
Yeah, that's what Sasha was talking about. Sasha was just talking about.
I know, we just want people want it.
That program.
But
So
a
it'll be a
grandfather.
while before we actually get
Till
to
2034.
Yeah, Jerry, the district sunset the ability to continue on our insurance, but we grandfathered in a number of staff who had been here for a certain amount of time in order to stay on our health insurance. So those individuals, if they retire before 2034, are allowed to stay on the district's health insurance policy.
And
So it will be some time before we are out of that,
Right.
out from under that situation.
But they can always change. Can it? I mean, like,
Yes.
I mean, the board can all of a sudden say, if you are retired and are on our health plan and you also have Medicare, then you're not eligible for a plan anymore.
Once they reach Medicare, everybody's kicked off.
Oh.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Military.
I think the idea is they had the ability to stay on it until they were Medicare eligible.
So that's,
But sometimes that's,
so is that correct? Once they get to Medicare,
Once they get to
they're
Medicare,
no longer on our plan.
they can remain on our plan, but it's a reduced premium plan.
It's
It becomes a supplemental plan.
And Medicare will make us pay first. So we carry the front end risk.
I think that's pretty consistent.
That's for those grandfathered
I
individuals.
think
For the
point is
individuals
if
who are
you
not
change
grandfathered,
this thing,
they are
you're
required to get their own insurance.
No, you're not
Sorry.
civil until they're 34.
How many, like, people is that? Like, what?
I do not know the number off the top of my head, but I'm going to say it's probably 20.
I would,
If I remember that list, yeah, somewhere around there.
I would not suggest trying to dump that immediately and create bad will among our employees. If we got to a point in our finances where 4 years from now, we can't pass a referendum and have to make huge big cuts, that might be the time you have to do something like
I
that.
only think that to change it, just so the board has its eyes wide open, that is a risk group that most organizations don't take.
I do think it's a risk group. I think on the other end, we have a risk group with a lot of parents with young children that go to ER a lot. So
They don't, young kids don't cost that much.
That's a huge part.
So-
Most expensive part.
Having the kids cost.
do we have anything
Not
else
as
for
much
this?
as the
We have any other-
70-year-olds
My
in
age
the
group,
ER.
That's right.
Do you guys have questions for
Do
the
we have any
questions
other,
for John?
do we have any other questions for the gentleman from Foster and Foster? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Have a great night, guys.
You too.
Okay, Under old business, we have the second reading of these three policies. We had them last month to look at and ask any questions or make any changes. They're back now for a second reading. Is there a motion to approve those policies?
I would move to approve the policies on public participation at board meetings, third grade promotion and retention, and with students and crowd funding.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. So did you have anything, Patty, that you need to report on legislatively?
Oh, yes.
A lot
Hot off the press
of,
today.
there's a lot of miscellaneous out there, but is there anything real timely?
It doesn't end. The special ed aid, which we sent a letter of resolution asking for 60% along with school districts around the state. Joint finance is looking at 35% in 2025, 26, 37.5% in 2026, 27, which is a far cry from 60% and is just a very minimal.
And that's one of the items addressed in that voter voice, if you want to communicate with the legislators on it, if it doesn't include to do that. It's one of the items included there.
The Joint Finance Committee is recommending an increase in high-cost special education. And Randy, I believe we do get some high-cost.
So we don't, it's not something that's applied for every year. Just to summarize, this year we applied for approximately $41,000 and we got $7,900 back. So, and it is a heavy lift to make that application. So it would be nice if they would increase that funding on special education, but I'm not optimistic in what we're hearing right now.
And that's not where we really need it. We need it in the special education general funding. But we have to keep in mind this is just joint finance, and not all of the Republicans are on board with the joint finance committee recommendations. The governor had recommended a huge increase in mental health programs, and joint finance is not going along with that. There are some concerns. Youth apprenticeship is getting a small increase, but not enough given the number of students. And we have several of them in the youth apprenticeship program through CISA. And some of the reactions are interesting to where joint finance is. There's one comment here, the state legislature's joint finance committee action last night will increase the shift to property taxes to support public schools and further force the need for referendum. While the $325 revenue limit authority exists, it's not funded by the state. It comes through property taxes. And unfortunately, the clear voices of school leaders, parents, and community and business leaders from around the state asking for 60% reimbursement were unheard. And there was overwhelming support at all of the hearings in the state. According to the Marquette Law School poll conducted in February, 76% of Wisconsin registered voters favor a major increase in funding for special education in schools. Majorities of all partisan groups favor increasing special education budgets, 59% of Republicans, 72% of independents, and 97% of Democrats. Wisconsin's investment in the future is minimal with this budget proposal. And as I mentioned, even some of the Republicans, Senator Chris Kapenga is talking about possibly supporting current funding rather than go with some of the proposals that are being presented. Joel Kitchens Dick and I went to his listening session and we gave our little spiel. And
His favorite line is, you know, I'm in complete agreement with you, but it's just not going to fly.
Gary Bice told us that 20 years ago.
it's too much money,
I'm
he
in
would say.
complete agreement with you, but it's just not.
That's what Gary said 20 years ago before meeting.
And when we brought, we didn't even bring up vouchers. It was another lady, and I don't know who she was, brought up vouchers and money going to vouchers. And his comment was the vouchers are here to stay. So that's where we're at. The DPI made a comment regarding the proposed budget. Raises your property taxes, doesn't support students with disabilities, and cuts youth mental health funding. All at a time when more kids than ever are struggling. So that's where it's at this point. We'll see where it goes next week.
That's where it is every year, people.
That's right. It's like an old-
Every year, which is why it is so important for us to stay in front of our community and show them the great things that happen here, so that when we have to go and ask for money, they know great things are happening here. 'Cause we
But WASB is urging us to keep fighting the good fight. That's all we can do at this point.
We have the athletic handbook. Oh, we need to accept. I guess we need a motion to approve, accept the OPEB report that we heard online.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2024 OPEB report as presented.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. There were some athletic handbook changes. Does anybody have further questions on those? Do you want to make a motion to approve those? What's your pleasure?
Only one question, and it came out from an issue last year, and it kind of states in there that the coach, can call for practices or practice on Sunday. Now, Sunday is one day of the week where the family can all get together. They go to church, they go stuff like that. Why would we ever need, except if we're in some tournament, and with an exception when we play on Monday, why would we ever put pressure on the kids and the family that we got to,
Yeah, it has to be a condition.
I don't care, it's still Sunday.
I understand that there are times there are conditions on Monday
That's right,
that
but-
Sunday practice.
Yeah, but it doesn't
They
say.
can't practice more than,
Okay.
on the weekends, they can't practice more than they have a break. There are limitations here, but it does sometimes call for a Sunday practice. That's the reality that the world we live in. It has to be up at 5 o'clock. On a Sunday, yes, it is still Memorial Day, but
It's a family day, it doesn't have to work, it's just a day for the family.
sometimes sports are family. That's what families do.
It's interesting because for years and decades, there was never any athletic practices on Saturday, and now all of a sudden it's,
Keith, you might be, is our policy that they don't practice on Sunday unless they have a competition on Monday?
Yes, there has to be a competition on Monday.
it doesn't say that in there.
And it's after 1 o'clock on Sunday or
I think it's
something.
later than that.
Does it happen very often?
No, it doesn't happen very often. I mean, some sports have open gyms on a Sunday. I mean, I'm just saying that gym space is limited, there are times, and I know high school sports don't practice on Sundays with the exception of the competition.
Because you only have to go, like the
So I
Hispanic,
can tell you coaches don't want to do it on Sunday practice.
so like the Hispanic population has mass at 1 o'clock on Sunday. So if they have mass, if they practice at 1 o'clock, that's gonna interfere with their culture, with their ability to practice with them. Notice against
I think any coach would support, if an athlete could not make a practice on a Sunday because of family obligation. I think that would be allowances for that. I can't speak for every varsity coach, but I would think that it is.
what we say.
Yeah, I mean, it says in the policy that they're supposed to be held against them for not Let's have
Oh,
it.
and that's really, that's like a watch on this, isn't it? What do you mean? I don't, but usually like a play.
Well, Jerry,
Because that tails into another issue we had last year, practicing during Christmas vacation.
It's not Christmas vacation, it's the
Oh, holiday.
winter
Right,
break.
it's a winter, it's a winter holiday, and
And the school's closed, so why would they ever have a practice?
Well, they practice
Because they-
all of
because it's a winter
August,
sport,
two-a-days.
and they do, that's their season here.
Fall
But,
sports.
but I'm saying that, okay, again, I look at the pressure on the family. A lot of families use Christmas time, excuse me.
It's winter break.
It's winter
Okay.
break.
But
But
they
they
use
don't,
that time of year to go take on a family trip someplace. And now this is gonna put the kid right in the middle of the coach and the family about whether they can go see grandma in Phoenix.
Believe it or not, culture is changing.
I think that
And with that, but still, except,
It's changing from when we
except, okay,
experienced it.
yeah, well, when I was in that.
I know, but you're just
We didn't
saying-
do any spring, we didn't go any place in Christmas, it
Okay.
was snow.
That's your culture. Culture is changing.
But today, more people travel and go on family trips during Christmas vacation.
But it's
than ever
also
before.
not just winter break, because I will tell you, personally, I have a new upcoming ninth grader who is going to be on the volleyball team, and we already have a pre-planned 10-day trip to UP and to Mackinac Island. I had no idea that they have two-a-day practices in the month of August. So my child is given the choice, do you stay here and practice, or do you come on vacation with us? And she is choosing to stay here, and my in-laws are coming to stay with her. So it's not just winter break, it's all sports. And that's just the reality, like, you have to choose. There's always pluses and minuses and family values, and I know what is right for my family is going to be different from somebody else's. I also have children that have lived and traveled many other places, so the trip is different, I think, for my kids than other families. But I mean, it's not just winter break, it's they don't have practice during the week of the county fair. Didn't know that, but they sure do the next week, which is the only week that we go. So
I just think it's wrong how we've allowed sports to become such a,
Speaking from some experience of
sports isn't a
three
bad thing, Jerry.
generations,
Sports isn't always.
I would agree with Jerry. In an ideal world, we wouldn't have practice on Sunday, we wouldn't have any practices during winter break, we wouldn't have any practices during spring break. That would be ideal, but the nature of the culture and the nature of school athletics, and not just school athletics, maybe DI and forensics and all those things require more practice time. And if we tried to say to our coaches, you cannot practice during winter break, you cannot practice on Sunday at all, although they don't want to be here, that puts them at a disadvantage for their team. They need to have those practice times. And sometimes they have tournaments in the holiday season, so it's not ideal for families, I understand.
Watching football during
It's the way it
Thanksgiving.
is.
Yes.
we were having tournaments in the 1990s over winter break. Like, so, that, I mean, the high school in the 90s, I was playing basketball in Rochester, Minnesota, staying at the Cantor Hotel in Mayo every winter, that's just what it was.
And actually for kids, for young adults, for high school kids, it's a good exercise for them to have to make that choice.
Yes.
Do I stay here and practice? Do I miss practice for this? Or what's important to me? It's a good exercise for them. So,
I think Beth is right. I think families have to make choices. I see this with my step-grandkids, and their parents are rearranging their lives around those kids' athletic schedules, but that's for so many years, and then we move on to other things. So I think, it is what it is now.
I guess if you'd like to see it, if you want to talk about it further, Jerry, you can go to the next athletic committee meeting and ask if they bring it back.
I know how that'll go. Sports is
Jerry- Jerry's the anti-athletic committee, like,
Is there,
he's the anti.
are there any other questions on the handbook changes?
I would move to approve the athletic handbook WIAA changes as presented.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Then we have the lunch prices for this coming school year.
So inside of your board packet, after looking at where we are with our fund for food service, we are recommending increases across the board for our lunches to help offset our negative balance.
Big change for the adults.
Yep, it changed for the adults, yeah. Slight increase.
I'm sure the high schoolers eat more than adults.
Any questions?
They don't have enough time, it's only like 12 minutes
Yeah.
of eating.
That's all I heard. It never comes out.
They don't have time to eat.
Okay.
Um,
Move to approve the lunch price recommendations for 2025 and 2026.
Second.
Other questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. That concludes our regular business. I will take a motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, Jeff?
Aye.
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 Motion carried at 6:41 PM. We're back in open session. We'll take motion first on the basketball coach, head varsity girls basketball coach.
I make a motion to approve the hiring of Max Hawkins as the school girls basketball coach.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll move then to the middle school cross-country co-head coach, which is
Alex Barnett.
supposed to be Alex Bath.
Make motion that we approve Alex Barnett as the school cross-country coach.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We move then to the high school JV2 head volleyball coach.
Make a motion to approve Sherry Vanderbilger as the high school junior varsity 2 head volleyball coach.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Then the middle school cross-country co-head coach. Jill.
Make motion that we appoint Shelley Spenzel as the middle school cross-country coach.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. To have all those spots filled. Our next meeting is July 16th, at 6 PM. And if we have nothing else, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried at 6:49 PM.